Hello, this is Mark L. White with Health Hacks, and today we are here to talk about mold with our guest, Dr. Ann Shippy. How are you, Dr. Shippy?
Doing great. I'm excited to get to talk to you.
Awesome, and you're up in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Yeah, the best place in Texas.
Very nice. I was looking at your bio, and you're an internal medicine doctor, but you started out as an engineer, correct?
Correct. I worked for IBM as a chemical engineer and manager for about a decade.
So, and then you decided to go into medicine.
Yeah, I ran into some health issues after going on vacation that I wasn't getting answers for. I was going from doctor to doctor, had tons of tests done, and just kept losing weight and couldn't get healthy. And so I had to start taking it into my own hands and reading everything I could find and trying some things outside the box. And one of the biggest things that really helped me was to change my diet.
Mm-hmm. So, what? First of all, like as an engineer, you think about things in a different manner. You think about processes and whatnot. And you don't see too many engineers that go into medicine. But how did your diet affect your health, and what was going on?
Yeah, so I think what had happened at that time is that I had low grade celiac and gluten sensitivity
Mm-hmm.
going on before I went on vacation, but then I got exposed to a parasite, and that really triggered those genes to be active. And I'm one of the many people that the traditional testing for celiac disease misses. A lot of us just until our gut is completely dead, or on the way to being completely dead,
Mm-hmm.
it's not diagnosed. So I just had to kind of experiment with all these different kinds of modalities and different diets and taking supplements and
Mm-hmm.
trying acupuncture, and I even did some immunoglobulin therapy to really reset my system and get it back on track. And then once I was well, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I didn't just try to settle for the Band-Aids, to alleviate the symptoms, that I really got my health completely restored and back on track. And it got me so fascinated about how the body worked that I wanted to apply my chemical engineering, problem solving, integrating information brain to the world of medicine, so that I could really provide medicine differently in a way that I felt like, I got to partner with the patients to really get a full recovery rather than just band-aiding.
Did you feel like Western medicine, as you went through that journey with celiac disease, did you feel that Western medicine was lacking?
Well, it didn't get me where I wanted to go. It didn't really get back to the root cause and help me to recover. And I don't want to badmouth allopathic. I mean, my MD, like, it's a great
Mhm.
foundation for me to do what I do now with patients. But it's really better at acute care rather than some of these chronic illnesses.
Mhm.
And it's a little slow to implement some of the latest technology that we have. I mean, the technology that's out now that can really help us get down to a cellular, mitochondrial, and
Mhm.
DNA level is just extraordinary. And we're not taught that in allopathic medicine. So that's where this functional medicine or integrative medicine a lot of times can surpass what the allopathic model can, and really looking at how even diet can make such a huge difference,
Mhm.
and getting the right diet for each person.
Did you tell me a lot? What did you change about your diet? Obviously, it sounds like you cut out gluten, but anything else or any hacks that our audience can learn about?
So what I did at the time was I implemented a macrobiotic diet. So it's
Uh-huh.
a vegan diet that's very seasonal, and you include a lot of vegetables and herbs and plants that are very, very healing. So now what I've adopted it for most of my patients is more of a modified paleo diet. So I kind of integrate some of those things together. Like, most of our plate needs to be vegetables, at least half the plate for most meals. And then that other half of the plate, we can add in some, really clean proteins. The closer to grass-fed natural meats, the better, with a little bit of fruit, some spices, and then some good fats. This whole thing that's been going on for decades about thinking that low fat is a good diet has caused a lot of harm, because we need good fats for our cell membranes to be healthy and for our brains to be healthy, but they just need to be the good ones, nuts and seeds and avocado and the good oils like macadamia nut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, those kinds of things.
Well, it's interesting that you were vegan and then you went paleo, because you see those two camps kind of arguing which diet is best.
And I would overlay them. I just did a blog on the carnivore diet, and I think it can be useful for a very short period. And that's what how close most paleo people are doing the paleo diet. But I would argue that the real Paleolithic diet, back to when there were hunter-gatherers, was highly plant-based, and that it's very difficult to have our biochemistry and physiology run optimally without a lot of plant food. But I do think that the grains, the highly agricultural products, tend to be inflammatory in their nature, and then in our food supply, they're often moldy.
Well, it seems even on a paleo diet, a lot of our protein sources and meat sources like chicken and beef, they didn't exist 10,000, 20,000 years ago. Those are basically animals bred in a certain way. I would say fish is really where the only source that we're getting natural proteins in its real form.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have access to the wild caught meats, that's the game meats, that's probably your best bet on having the healthy proteins and fats with the animal protein. And then if you don't, then having, at least having grass-fed beef and buffalo, or and the pasture-raised chicken, that those are at least the closer forms to those, to what our bodies really respond to, and lower inflammation and do the repair that's necessary.
Now, I know you also are a big believer in epigenetics, and that looks like the future, because we can really customize healthcare and preventative health around somebody's DNA. Tell me more. I want to learn more about that. That's exciting stuff.
It's so exciting because, we have this idea that our genes are our destiny. So why even test them, right? Because sometimes you just don't want to know that you have the ApoE4 gene and you're at increased risk for Alzheimer's. But what's really exciting is this field of epigenetics that's looking at how those genes can be downregulated or upregulated in a way that makes those genes function better. So the twin studies are perfect examples of that. So identical twins, they have the same genes. So looking at, which ones get heart disease or cancer or autoimmune disorders and the other one's perfectly fine, that's epigenetics. So there are things in the person's lifestyle or environmental exposures or even levels of stress that can modulate those genes. So my TEDx talk is out now.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
How was that? Were you nervous up there, or was that?
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous because I was trying to make, because this topic is so new and controversial, and TED has had the researchers talk about epigenetics, but they haven't had many medical practitioners, many physicians talk about how they're using epigenetics in their practice. So we decided to put it out to TED, to give TED my script a couple of weeks beforehand. And they came back and they were uncomfortable with some of the things. So I was editing down to the wire and, making sure that all 69 citations that I was using in my 12-minute talk were on the slides, but they were still uncomfortable with my talk because it's such a new idea. The things that you're doing every day are influencing your gene expression and impacting the trajectory of your health, that TED still flagged it, but I still feel, so I didn't get a chance to completely memorize my talk because I was editing down to the night before. But I still feel really good about it because I want people to know, what they're eating, the environmental toxins that they're exposed to, how they're handling their stress, are all things that really make a huge difference in the outcome of their lives.
At one time, germ theory was controversial.
Yeah.
And, back in the 19th century, like, well, why is epigenetics, like, why is it controversial? Because it makes a lot of sense.
Well, so there's over 30,000 articles on PubMed, the main
Mhm.
repository of research articles that are out there, but they're all pretty much in the research area. So now putting them into practice, that's a matter of opinion. So the TED Talk was my opinion. It's what I see in my practice. Um, and so it all really remains to be seen. There are now some labs that are coming out where we can check a lot of the upregulation and downregulation of the genes, but it's such new territory that a lot of people can have differences of opinion on how much it really matters. But based on what I see in my practice, even with my own body, it's so exciting.
Do you think that's going to be the standard of care in traditional medicine in 2 or 3 decades?
I hope it doesn't take that long.
Yeah,
I
it's
hope it's within the decade. In fact, I just got off a call a couple hours ago with a new lab in Europe that's looking at how expanding the number of labs that aren't just available to the researchers, but to make it available to the doctors and the consumers on how their genes are being modulated. So I've got my first few patients doing their testing with the company, including my own. And then we'll make some modifications, the things that I'm talking about, and then be able to remeasure in 6 to 12 months and see if we're influencing the genes exactly the way that we hope that we are.
so once you get somebody's genetic profile, you use diet, environmental changes. Do you also use supplementation to influence genes?
Absolutely. So supplementation is so powerful when it's used in the right way. You get the right quality of supplements, and then you really match that up to what the patient needs the most. So I see tremendous changes. There's another lab that I work with that is over in Germany that can look at what environmental toxins are
Mhm.
attached to particular genes. And so I get to see, okay, we've made the changes to exposure, we've helped the person detoxify and really helped to put in the phytonutrients, and we can see those epigenetic changes with the
Mhm.
toxins being removed from the DNA.
So I live in Florida. Florida is humid, and a lot of homes are full of mold. How concerned do we need to be about that? Because I know that that's something that you really have studied.
Yes, I've studied it in my own body. I've run into a couple of major mold issues over the last 10 years, and then helped a lot of patients with it as well. And it's pretty alarming. The mold, we kind of think a lot of times is it kind of falls into three categories. So one is the allergy and asthma aspect of it.
Mhm.
Number two is the toxins that the mold make do that damage, and then third, it can cause infection in the body, and especially for patients that are immunosuppressed, like transplant patients, it's a leading cause of death in those patients.
Mm.
So the thing that we're not taught in medical school that most physicians don't know about is the toxicity side of mold. And there's so many different forms of mold, and each type of mold makes many different mycotoxins and something
Mhm.
called MVOCs. The MVOCs are what you can smell from some molds in some circumstances. And it's pretty alarming what those toxins do, the mycotoxins and MVOCs. So there's links with cancer, with autoimmune diseases, direct damage to the
Mhm.
cells, the mitochondria, and it's pretty alarming. And then some of those toxins have actually been too toxic to use for things like chemotherapy, and have been used for biological warfare. So, when we look at this world of toxicity, there are a lot of things that we can't control. Like in Texas, there's some of these areas where there's refineries and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. If you're living in one of those areas, you're going to be exposed, or just really air pollution in general. Um, are some of the things that we don't have control over. So the things that we can control, we want to be controlling. So you don't want to wait until you get cancer or an autoimmune disorder, heart disease, you want to be proactive about it in the first place.
So, like you said, you can't control where you work. You can't control the environment. If you live in a refinery town, I'm sure you're not suggesting that you should just move.
If you
But what,
can,
well,
honestly.
or you could, but what do you do? Is there some way to protect yourself? Supplements? Should we walk around with a mask? Like, how do we function?
So I've got a couple handouts on these topics because I know we're only going to be able to, brush the surface. So anshippymd.com/mold. And then there's, if you go to my homepage, just anshippymd.com, we have a 51-page report that talks about the environmental toxins that you can control. So what we're getting in our food, what we're putting on our skin, implementing things like air filters in our bedrooms that are really high quality HEPA filters. So at least those, hopefully 8 or 9 hours that we're sleeping every night, we're getting clean air, and then being aware of your mattress and the fragrances in your laundry detergent. So when you take it all together, it's kind of like overwhelming.
Wow.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't do all these things. But if we just parse it off in little pieces, like, okay, this week I'm going to work on my skincare. Next week I'm going to work on the pots and pans in my kitchen, and then this week I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do for clean water. Do I get an under the sink filter for my kitchen? Do I get a whole house filter? Do I get a filter on the that's just on the countertop? So just finding the pieces that you can in little pieces at a time, and then there's some things that you might choose to not do anything. So I would be almost completely gray if I didn't color my hair, and I'm just not ready to be gray. I have a family history of turning gray in your 30s with both my parents, my cousins, and just everybody. So I go ahead and color my hair, but I have certain things that I do each time so that I can have the toxins go through quickly. I do a special detox bath that's on our store called Clear and Restore. I do some extra liposomal glutathione, and then some binders with charcoal and clay to zip it through more quickly. So I do extra doses of those things on days that I know I'm being more exposed.
Can you test yourself to see if you're being exposed to toxins? Is there any type of things you can do internally?
Absolutely. And it's so awesome to measure your progress and then know you've made a difference. So you can check the mycotoxin exposure, and that's on the mold handout. So you can see what your levels are. And then there's also some information about how to test your home or car or any building that you're in regularly. And then for some of these other toxins, there are lab tests that you can do as well that are also linked there. So you can check some of the pesticide levels and some of the VOCs, some of the things that are in air pollution, the plastic. So there's a lot of information that you can look at. In fact, my mom is 88. Wow. and they had just done some remodeling on her house. And so I wanted to see, okay, how well did you do at selecting your new carpet and some of the other things that they had to replace? Because I wanted to make sure she wasn't getting a big exposure. And so this was back a few months ago, and we tested her, and some of the levels were like off the charts. So even though she thought she had done an okay job, she hadn't. So we implemented some changes in the house with we actually got a couple of air scrubbers that they ran at night and when they were gone, because they're kind of loud. And then I just retested her and got the results back yesterday, and the levels were down, way, way down. So she was off the charts, did things for a couple months, also increased her glutathione and her binders and, the supplements that she's taking. And she's back to feeling great. Like, she's 88. She said, "Oh yeah, I just walked 2 miles this morning." And
with a daughter like you, I bet she's a young 88 years old.
Well, I think a lot of it's her own doing. Like, she just really works hard at it. She eats her organic vegetables for breakfast and gets out and does her walking. And then it's like, "Mom, are you meditating?" Because I can see, we did some other labs too, and I could see that she looked a little stressed. I think the last year was a little stressful for her with all the remediation and some other things that happened. And like, "Are you meditating?" And And so she's going to get back to doing her meditation a little bit more frequently.
No, it's amazing how much stress damages our body. You must have so many different and what interesting cases, because you work with a whole variety of people. What's the most interesting patient that you've treated, and what impact did you have?
Yeah, so I think it would be, I'm just thinking about a couple of the patients that had mold exposures that then developed really severe environmental chemical sensitivity. So it's like when your barrel fills up from the mold, kind of tipping you over, then your body can be on hyper alert and really start reacting to everything that you're being exposed to, whether it's a little bit of perfume, or you walk down the cleaning aisle in the grocery store, or something blows in with the air pollution. So having people just feel like they can't get ahead of the toxins and that they're reacting to everything. One of the things that's been extremely helpful with the stress side of things is to do daily meditation. Mm-hmm. And I love a device called the Muse. It really helped me about 4 years ago when I got into mold again and developed adult onset asthma that was really severe. Like buildings that I used to be able to go into,
you can't do it anymore.
I wasn't able to. So doing the Muse, which is a meditation and neurofeedback device to help to reset that limbic, parasympathetic, sympathetic system into a more neutral place was amazing, and has helped so many patients. And then there are a couple of programs that are available online. Annie Hopper's DNRS Systems. It's an online training, or ANS Rewire is one that a patient just found a couple months ago to help like emotionally and physically retrain the body that it's safe again, so that it as you're doing the other things by getting into a clean environment and helping your body to detoxify and rebuild, that resetting of the way that the body interprets stress, whether it's somebody's mad at you for something, to the environmental things, to oh my gosh, how am I going to work all this out financially, all those stresses that people go through on a day regular basis. It just can feel so much different in your body, and your ability to take the next step that you need to do rather than being overwhelmed by the entire process is critical.
Yeah, it's overwhelming with technology, and kids these days are just bombarded by it. But the Muse, is that what is that? A band that goes around your head? Is that how does that work?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's a little headband that goes across your head, and it picks up your EEG waves. They all just in the last 2 months, 3 months, they came out with one that is it's for sleep. So it's there's no plastic or anything. It's like a headband that you could put on right when you're going to bed, and it can be working on doing this reset during the night and help you get a better quality sleep. So it's sending the brain waves to an app on your phone, and you can pick a soundscape to listen to. So when your brain's really active, the soundscape will be loud. So there's a rainforest, a beach, those kinds of things. I really like the rainforest. So it'll get loud when your brain starts to get active. And then as you get into a more relaxed, gentler state, it gets quieter. And then when you're in a really good state, the birds will chirp. And so all you have to do is focus on your breathing, and that sound information helps to rewire your brain and reset your parasympathetic, sympathetic balance. And then it gives you all the information in a really nice readout at the end, and it really tracks your progress. So I actually show this to patients to motivate them to really find out where they are and to use this device. So back in 2016, when I had this mold exposure, my chart showed no relaxation time in 20 minutes. It had all active and neutral. There was no relaxed state and no birds. So I was really over there in the run from the tiger state, like every minute, even when I was trying to meditate and focus on my breathing. And then 10 months later, I showed an example of what a typical Muse session would look like. And it was 98% relaxed, 2% neutral, 0% active, and 277 birds. So it's dramatically different in my body when I do have things that are stressors happen. My whole response to stress has changed.
So this is the Muse. It gives you a report of it's kind of like, I guess, the Aura ring when you sleep.
Yes. So but it's more about just where is your system on the with your brain waves. So it's helping to retrain your brain waves into the more of the alpha state, which is more of the restorative state.
Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely, as soon as this is over, I'm going to get myself a Muse. I think that's so freaking cool. I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's choosemuse.com.
Choosemuse.com. I'm going to check that out.
And I love the more intensive types of neurofeedback that people can do by going to a neurofeedback provider. But those, they take an hour to 3 hours a week, and they're much more expensive. So this is such an economical way to shift your body into that.
It's amazing how we can use technology to impact the masses and as many people as possible. Now,
and then it makes the world a better place because we're not all running around in a stress state, not responding the way that we'd really like to be.
Now you're working on your third book, right?
Right.
What are you writing about?
This one's on epigenetics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm such a nerd. I love, this is such an exciting opportunity, and I can't wait to put it all together in the book for people.
Yeah, no, I just did my 23andMe test a few months ago, and it seems like that just scratches the surface.
Right. So now you know what genes you have. So one of the things I love patients to do, and this is a great health hack, is to take your 23andMe raw data, because 23andMe can really only tell you a very small subset of the genes that they actually test for. So I have people take their raw data from their 23andMe account and load it into a website called methylsupport.com. And that'll give you a whole lot more. So yeah, methylsupport.com. So it's all linked up. So that site helps you to load your raw data file in, and then it'll give you, it's like a 50-page report now on even more genes. And many of those genes are ones that we can actually have a lot of influence over by what supplements we take and how we're eating. And really help to modulate those better, to anticipate what our epigenetics are doing based on those genes and help them to behave better.
It's amazing. I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge. So if somebody wants to learn anything from how to test the mold in their house to how to test mold in their body, and learn anything from that they want to know about mold, they can go to your website and shippymd.com.
And then if you go to the resources page, we have a lot of handouts that people can download to get all kinds of information from, the 51-page report on environmental toxins. There's one on mold. There's one on sleep. There's tons of great information to help people.
Do you still see patients, or are you taking new patients?
I am taking new patients. There's a bit of a wait, but for somebody that really wants to get in, if they call in and talk to my staff and explain what's going on, and make sure it's a good match for them, we'll get them in as soon as we can. That's my favorite thing. I just love getting to see the people get better. So
awesome.
Really awesome.
So we'll have links in our show notes. Whoever wants to visit you can visit your website or reach out to you and call your office. We're here with Ann Shippy. Everything you need to know about mold, epigenetics, and more. And also check out her TED Talk. That's really cool. It was so nice spending this time with you.
Oh, it's so great talking to you. And I love what you're doing. You're getting some really great information on your podcast. I really enjoyed looking through what guests you're inviting and what you're talking about. I know it's helping a lot of people.
Yeah, it's awesome finding interesting guests. So I'm glad you can join us today. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Thank you.